همچنان در مورد داستان هزارها بر شما گپ میزنه و همچنان نگفته نمونه که کاندیدای دکترا در دانشگاه بیکوکای میلان همچنان میباشد و حالا میشه از آقای کلاودیو.
I can speak in English, considering that we are all speaking in English, and so the guests online will understand. Good evening, everybody. First, let me say that we Italians, we are not known as the great English speakers of the world, but I will do my best. I'm very proud and honored to be here, and I would like to give a warm welcome to Mr. Bizabi and Mr. Barati. I'm very happy that they are here, and they are here with us during this very important presentation. I started. I knew about Hazara people since a lot of time because one of my greatest friends is a Hazara boy, came in Italy in 2007. He always told me about what Hazara were facing in Afghanistan, what kind of discrimination, what kind of marginalization, what kind of suicide attacks and everything. But he was very, very young when he came here in Italy, so his words were, at the time, were only words. Then he came back to Afghanistan in 2016, and he married and came back in Italy here. When he came back here, it was completely different. His words were completely different because he experienced the fact that he saw personally two of his friends beheaded in what is called the death road, the road that channels Jalras and Kabul. What happened in that road? He saw two of his friends taken out of a car. He saw Taliban asking who were Hazaras among them. Nobody was answering. But Taliban said, "Your eyes cannot lie." And they beheaded these two guys. He was shocked, completely shocked. And then he started saying me, it's completely different from what I remember. It's completely different from what I hear. Seeing, experiencing these things is completely different. So I started studying the Hazara question, and I have to admit that at the beginning was a little bit hard because in Western world, it's not simple to find materials, sources, books about Hazaras. All the books in English are written by Hazara scholars that could write this book only when they were already out of Afghanistan, simply because in Afghanistan it's impossible to tell these things. I said it was difficult because the most difficult thing was to find something reliable to write about, to talk about. Then I met Amin, my great friend Amin, who is here, and Amin completely changed my way of seeing and considering this question. Because he put me in touch with a lot of Hazaras. And it was there that I understood that where science cannot arrive, stories of people could in some way. Because the stories of people could arrive directly to the minds, to the hearts, to the ear of the people. I decided so to dedicate my researches to the Hazara people and the Hazara question, mainly for two reasons. Obviously, for all the enormous quantity of friends I made between Hazara people. I believe I have more Hazara friends than Italian friends at this point. And secondly, because when I started approaching the study, I realized how this question was silenced by not only in Afghanistan but in every part of the world. That is simply explained, I think. Hazaras, in all their history, even in these 20 years, they had never the chance to put some people in foreign ministers, in foreign affairs, in embassies. All the people that work in embassies for in USA, in Italy, in Western country, were Pashtuns. And they, in some sort, prevent Hazaras to tell their history. What again changed a lot my mind and my perception. What happened is what happened in Kabul last year and what happened in Afghanistan. I 6-7 months before the fall of Kabul, I made a Facebook page called The Voices from Hazaristan, and I decided to start writing in Italian what I was finding out about Afghanistan. I started with the Besut case. The Besut case is still a thing that is very little talked, but I think that it's a great example of discrimination and how this discrimination were not born with Taliban or with fundamentalists, but it's a thing that it's institutionalized in some way, systematic. It's portrayed and perpetuated even by people from government. In Besut, I will try to tell it in a short way. Afghan government find out that an helicopter from Afghan army were shot down. They immediately said that the fault was the responsible was Alipur, the commander of the front of resistance of the Hazara people in Besut. Afghanistan is a land full of armed leaders, but Afghan government chose to fight and to arrest and to discriminate only the Hazara forces in Besut. These forces were fundamental for them. Why? Because how Hussein was telling before, when there is the good season, the summer, the spring, in Afghanistan, the Kuchi arrive. According to WikiLeaks source, so a very reliable source, the Kuchi made 53% of all Taliban. So they are in some way really at the same level from Taliban. They arrive here every year and they take houses, they burn factories, they burn lands, they kill people, they behead people. And in some way government has always helped them and never helped Hazaras to defend from them. So Alipur started this movement and changed life for a lot of people that could fight with him and to, in some way, gain back freedom from this regime. In January 2021, in March 2021, this helicopter was shut down. And the Afghan government, even if Alipur immediately told that that wasn't his fault, the Afghan government immediately found a way to attack Besut. More than 2,000 soldiers, and it's strange thinking of the fact that only 5 months after there was no soldier to fight Taliban, but in 5 months after, before, these 2,000 soldiers completely destroyed Besut. They attacked the schools. They were searching for Alipur. Why I think this shows perfectly? In the same year, while Taliban was gaining power again, was gaining forces, was receiving weapons from international coalitions, the government chose to fight the Hazara resistance front, making a great difference between saying that they were criminals. There was a general, Sami Sadat, a Pashtun general, that called them mad dogs, not only the Alipur, but all the inhabitants of Besut. So all the children, all the girls, all the old people. The same general when it came to fight Taliban, he escaped, as the president Ghani did. I decided to dedicate my researches to the Hazara question. I started a PhD project in Milano University La Bicocca, and my PhD project is entirely on the recognition of Hazara genocide. And my purpose for the recognition is to divide the genocide in 3 different moments. The first, maybe the most important, but not the one who is even now less talked. The genocide from 1891 and 1893, when Abdul Rahman Khan, the Emir of Afghanistan, conducted more than 10,000 troops to completely destroy the lands of Azeristan. He started to burn factories, burn lands, and for Hazara's lands and factories in that time were very, very important because it was the guarantee of survival. The genocide were the war. The Emir said that considering all the wars he did in his history, that war, the Hazara war, was the most important because it was going to give stability to the country. And still now, in the books that talk about Afghan history, and history of Afghanistan, written by scholars who only rely to Pashtun sources, this time is portrayed as a time which a great king has fought illiterates, rebels that didn't want to have a modern state. The reality is completely different, and thanks to a great historian, Khatib Hazara, we know that more than 62% of the population of Hazaras were completely killed. Thousands and thousands of Hazaras were enslaved, and Abdul Rahman Khan at the end of the war said one thing: don't be speaking with Pashtuns, don't be mad with the Hazaras. We have to be happy that they are in Afghanistan because they are the slaves. They can do all the work we don't want to do. So it's perfectly clear that it was not the suppression of a rebellion. It was not a civil war. It was a conquer war. It was conquering a completely different ethnic group with completely different ethnic tradition, culture, language, and a completely different way to live the life and the politics. Just think that even before Abdul Rahman Khan, there was an explorer, American explorer, Josiah Harlan, who told in early in 1830, he told that all the other ethnics in Afghanistan were mad with the Hazaras because they considered women as peer as men. 200 years ago, in a place that now is ruled by people who don't want that women go out of the home. Hazaras, 200 years ago, were already giving the same importance to women. Josiah Harlan told us that Hazara men and leaders, they had to wait Hazara women ideas before doing something, and that shows how deeply was the difference between Hazaras and the other ethnic group in Afghanistan. After Abdul Rahman Khan, as I said, the Hazaras were enslaved, and with the beginning of a great century as the previous one was, Hazara was put in the last place in Afghanistan. They were put to do the worst works. They didn't have access to study. When in all Kabul there was more than 50 schools, in all Azeristan in 1960 there was only one school. One can think that the request of education was not great. It's the complete opposite thing. The request of education was higher in Azeristan than in other places in Afghanistan. The second moment of genocide is what I want to write about is in the dossier, in the PhD thesis. It's the arrival of Taliban. But even before the arrival of Taliban in 1993, in Afshar, Hazara are massacred. In the book, I put the testimony of Dr. Rahila Kabir, that when she spoke me about this massacre, she asked me to take a break because what she remembers was so heavy, so deep that it was difficult even to tell about. She said that she remembered blood of Hazara women put on the walls, and Pashtun or Arab, because there were already Arab in Afghanistan fighting with Taliban or with Sayyaf, for example, writing sentences against Hazaras. Then, in 1994, the arrival of the Taliban, it's like when the situation got even worse. Hussein spoke very well about Mazar massacre, a massacre in which the leader of Taliban clearly said, "We will take Tajiks to Tajikistan, Uzbeks to Uzbekistan, and Hazaras to Goristan." He clearly said that his intention was not to discriminate them. His intention was to kill them all. In the book, I put two testimonies of Mazar massacre, and I feel that they are two of the most complex history. One of a person that, for surviving Madi Merahin, he had to fake his identity. He had to fake for 3 years to be an Uzbek, and in that way he could survive. Another is by Dawood Vassel. Dawood Vassel is a guy that spent 2 years in jails in Mazar, in Shebergan, and then in Kandahar. And he told me about the atrocities he saw. And he told me a thing. I did a question to him. I told him, in your opinion, what are the difference between Nazi lagers and Taliban jails? What are the difference between the genocide of Jews and the genocide of Hazaras? He said, I can only tell you this. In my jail, I was with a lot of other prisoners. Half were Hazaras, half were not Hazaras. We Hazaras were, the non-Hazaras were our bosses. Else the capos was in Nazi's camp. Taliban, even in the jails, made a difference between non-Hazaras and Hazaras. And Hazaras had to be in the lowest place, even in jails. And even people that they think that were criminals, they can rule about Hazaras in jail. The third moment I would like to speak about in my future project is the new moment of genocide for Hazaras. The one who, as Hussein said, came after 2014 and 15, 16. Why I think it's different? I think it's different because from a battleground, from a ground of massacres, Hazaras nowadays are being hit in the most important places. Mosque, bus, autobus to go to work, schools, universities, all the places where Hazaras really want to live their life without all the discrimination and all these things. In writing the book, as I said before, I relied a lot about Hazara sources, and a great Hazara sources written by great Hazara scholars and professors, as Zavi, as Professor Ibrahimi, and I relied mostly about a lot of interviews and personal experience. I really think that it's very important to always hear their story. And I know I already said it, but where the cold science cannot arrive, I think these personal stories can break a barrier in some way. And my work is not done here. I feel I just began to what I want to do for Hazara people. I have some projects that I will present now, all in the PhD. I would like to write a biography of Abdullah Mazari, because I feel very, very, very important to tell the world what his political ideas were and why his political ideas were still nowadays in 2022 revolutionary in Afghanistan. And I feel that it's not right, it's not fair that there is lots of books about other historical leaders in Afghanistan, but there is not one book about Mazari. I personally think that Mazari as the persona of Mazari has to be told to all the Western people who cannot imagine that a leader in 1993 can tell to his troops that half of the population of Afghanistan were made by women. So it was fundamental to include women in the politics. I think it's important to tell the world that Ibn Wadat had 6 women in his that direction. Yes, in that. And it was very important. While other groups in Afghanistan were starting to segregate women, he put women in power. And I think it's very important to do this biography. Another project that I have is to write a graphic novel with the artist that did the cover of the book, that is a great friend, and he already did 3 graphic novels. My idea is to, through 4 stories of survived people, retrace all the history of Hazara genocide. I will start with the 2 survived people of Mazar massacre. Then my idea is to build a story of a survived person of the Mazam. And my idea is to tell about Abdurrahman Khan times and genocide through flashback of this person that is going to the Mazam demonstration, and when he sees all the people with signs, with freedom, with hope of freedom, he thinks at what his ancestors had to pass to come to that point. And then a last story about a survived person of Kalish Center, or maybe displaced person, because I think it's very important to tell about what forced displacement still are nowadays. We cannot imagine how it is to be to have a person, not a criminal, in this case, unfortunately, a person that represents the government of Afghanistan coming to your house and saying you have to go away. This house will be given to other people that never was there, but we will give to them, and it's okay. In a season like this, in provinces like Daikundi, where winter still hits very hard, where roads are blocked, where it's impossible to help people, Taliban are forcing people to live a winter under trees. And this is a real crime against humanity, and this is genocide too, because forcing people to go away from lands, from their ancestors' lands, as Hussein told before, is a great violence. Another project I have is trying to build and trying to tell what is the route of Hazara refugee that goes to Afghanistan, to Europe. So visiting the places of the route in Iran, in Greece, in Turkey, coming to the refugees camp in Europe. Lots of Hazara refugees are stuck still in these camps without hope, without freedom. And worse than them, there are more than 10,000 refugees, Hazara refugees stuck in Indonesia, where They are used like a weapon by Australian government that use them as a weapon to say to other refugees, don't come here. They are like in a jail. I closed the book with a sentence of one of these refugees. I think it's very powerful and I want to tell you here. This refugee, Alireza, told me this. My father was born in Afghanistan. I was born in Iran. My children were born in Indonesia. I honestly don't know where their children will be born. That is the fate of Hazaras, not having no place to call home. I want to finish with only a thing. I consider very important to do all these projects, and I'm searching for money and for funds and sponsorships for these projects, because unfortunately my university has not given me the scholarship, so I'm doing the PhD without the scholarship. Typical Italian thing. But I really consider very important this. For example, the work about Mazari, I think it's one of the most important. Mazari said, being Hazara is not a crime. I think it's time that all the world started to think that being Hazara is not a crime, it's an honor. Thank you very much.